All right, I'm back. John here with 18 Inches Down podcast. How's it going, guys? This is a good day. Every day is a good day. We just would do well to make it that way. How do we do that? We do that by not allowing the day before to be carried into the now reality, because just like the old proverb says, mercies are new every single morning. That means that you have fresh forgiveness awaiting you. You have fresh inspiration, a fresh, new, positive, good, wonderful day ahead. Now, when I say that, how does that make you feel? Yeah, if you only lived in my shoes, bro. If you only lived in my world, you don't have the problems I have. What is that? What is that? That's really the false self talking versus the real self in what I just relayed to you. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. False self versus real self. It's a difference between living a happy life or a crappy one. Just true. It's just reality, guys. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. So thankful that I get to do this each and every day. I just, the only quote challenge is not being able to do this all day long, because literally from the real genuine self, the deeper layer of who I am, I can do this all day long. And so can you, in whatever it is that you are hardwired to do in your real self. So let's talk about it. What is the false self versus the real self? What is the difference there? What is the makeup of the false self versus the real? Well, you have counterfeit and you have genuine. It's a good way to look at it is something that's illusionary, that's not really true. It's not its own real, genuine state. The definition of real just actually means existing as a thing, not imagined or supposed. It's a substance of a thing. And then reality is the walking out of that real definition. So real, what is real today? See, this is what we're wading through. There's a lot of counterfeit mask wearing going on that is all driven by this illusionary dominant force called the ego. EGO, edging God out. Wayne Dyer said that. And it's very true. It's because we edge the real self out. So you could call it ESO, edging self out, edging the real self out. Edging ERSO, edging real self out. However you want to define it, we're edging. We're in other words, we're denying the genuine realness of who we are because we don't realize that there is a bigger self involved. Some of us do, some of us don't. A whole lot of people don't. Look around your life on any given day, whether it's the workplace, your business, walking down the street, going into a Starbucks, a store, wherever it is. You can look around if you have any level of self-awareness about your life. You look around and say, ooh, that's a mask. That person's copycatting. That person's mimicking the same thing that girl just did. They're all depressed. They're not living in an absolute elation and joy. But then you see one little head poke out and they're just loving life. Maybe they're the Starbucks girl, the Starbucks guy, and they're just like, oh, I love it. I love what I'm doing. I just love this. Well, what is that? They may not necessarily love every little aspect of doing the Starbucks barista job, but they love life. They love tapping into the real part of who they are. They're not so much given over to the egoic self that is living and hanging out in stress, sweat, this part of itself that is always fighting for its way. But you can tell the coworker next to them, can't you? They're all out for themselves because they've had a level of trauma that's happened in their life or conditioning that either outweighs the other person, or they just have not allowed themselves to be healed enough, like the person that's joyful and singing over here, haven't engaged that joyful side than the other. So it's not as if one of us is better than the other or one of us is unequal to the other. We're all equal as far as valuable and priceless. We all have our priceless qualities. Yes, you are invaluable. You are priceless. whether you think that or realize that or not. Why? Because we're all connected in oneness. And how much of a price can you put on the head of unconditional love? It's priceless. That's what you're made of. You're made of the substance of unconditional love. And I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it until we believe it, until we know it, we believe it, we walk it out through inspired action. So it's super important to see the difference here. The false self is this part of us. It's like a suit that we wear. It's not just a mask, because it envelops our entire being, because we move and live and have our being in this outer shell, if you will, called a false self suit. And that suit, depending on the strength of that suit, let's just say it's like an Iron Man suit, okay? Oh yeah, you can be an Iron Man. You can literally be an Iron Man being driven by ego. Okay, you can go to the Iron Man competitions, the triathletes, and you can hammer that sucker out, and you can be that dude. You can be the Beretta that is just rocking it, right? But what's going on underneath of that Iron Man suit? What's really happening? It's like this. Here's another analogy. Bodybuilders, right? You see bodybuilders in the gym. If you go to the gym, see them all the time. These guys that are just so rocked and puffed up, and they got veins popping out everywhere, pimples and zits all over their body, right? And they're like just rocked. And then you see the other guy that's the triathlete that is really highly defined, not so big, but very muscular, but about half the size. Okay. And his skin looks clear, and he's just looks like he's shining in the gym, and you're just like, wow, what a specimen of a dude, right? I can say that as a man, so I'm secure in myself. So, and then you look at the other guy, and he's got these little tiny red pimples all over his skin, and he looks like he's 80 when he's 30, and you know, he rode hard and put away sweaty. You know what I'm saying? So this bro over here is pumping the iron. He's pumping himself full of steroids. He's pumping himself full of synthetics. He's wearing a suit, if you will. But the other guy over here is all natural. He might be a vegan bodybuilder. He might be just, eating really clean. He's lean, mean machine. So I often say, okay, which one is going to have more longevity more than likely? More than likely, it's the lean, clean fighting machine over here that has the clean skin, eating healthy. So what's going on underneath the surface? Everybody, the conventional medicine will say this. It's just like, oh, get some exercise, you'll be just fine. Then you hear guys in the gym talking about it. Yeah, my doctor told me to get some more exercise, and, my heart will be good. No, it won't. Exercise is great. Of course it is. But what you have to really be concerned about are those veins underneath the surface that are making your heart pump. Are they clogged with cement, or are they flooded with broccoli? You know what I'm saying? Are they clean as a whistle so that the blood can pump in and out without obstruction? See, we don't want to look beneath the surface because we are so hardwired and conditioned to believe that it's all about the surface. It's all about the external. It's all about looking good, sounding good. It's about the next best thing that comes walking along in their tight little bikini, and look at her body, look at the shape of her body, look at the guys chiseled. And we just look at the surface and say, man, they must be really healthy. They just have it all together, right? No. That's a big N-O. That's a big N-O. That's a big no. Because what really matters is if your heart isn't pumping, you don't have all this outward stuff. You just don't have it, right? You're dead. So what's going on beneath the false self? It's called genuine reality. It's called the real true self. That is what will never be corrupted and never die. That's our spirit. And then our heart is directly connected, the physical heart that stores memory, and then the spiritual heart of things. Really, when you're looking at, they're synonymous when you look at a spiritual heart and then the spirit. So when we're talking about, man, that person has heart, Were we talking about a real physical heart? Well, part of it, because it stores memory, it has a memory bank in it. When you put two hearts together, and they've done lots of studies on this, but when you take two hearts that are pumping and they're outside of the body and you put them together, one of them's pumping separately. When it's separate, the other one's pumping separately. When you put them together, they start harmonizing. They start pumping together. It's cardiogenosis. It's really this thing that starts with that just shows that we're all one. So what we're talking about is being in rhythm and in sync with the real self. Look at those two hearts. It's like one is just pumping independently when we're in ego, right? But then when we start to awaken, when we start to see the real self for what it is, and we start getting healed, the ego starts integrating, and then it starts going boom, 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 boom. They're just with the spirit. They're in sync and they're in union. They're in oneness, beating at the same rhythm. It's called flow state. When you have the power. Remember when the other podcast I talked about the power of the battery assisting the engine in the hybrid car. When you push the power button, it starts to fuel our life in such a way to where we can do this effortlessly when we start living out of the real self, the genuine part of us. That's the bigger narrative that's in union with the entire cosmos. A lot of people don't even understand that we have that part of us. They just think this is life. This is what I do. I go to the gym. I pump, synthetics into me, and this is how I get big. Never mind what I've got, that happens to 60, 70-year-olds. I don't have to worry about my heart. I don't have to worry about the arteries. I don't have to worry about the veins and what's going on inside of there. That's an unconscious person saying that. With all love shown towards anyone listening that is stuck dead set on that, that is the illusionary world and mind of the false self stating that. Because when we're awake, we start looking deeper into health, into wealth, into the self. We start looking deeper and find out what's really at the root cause of anything and everything that we're engaged in. And when we do that, you guys, life starts to become really, really interesting and fun. It's not so fun when we're having to sit there and work our brains out for 10 or 11 hours doing something we just don't really want to do, because we can't be honest enough. Society does not allow us, especially in corporate America. It does not allow us to be so genuine and real and honest with ourselves, because everybody else is throwing this narrative on us saying, if you don't work, you don't eat. You need to get out there and get a job. Go get a job. You have to pay the bills. Mom and dad tell us if they're in survival mode. Go get a job. I don't care what it is. Go work at McDonald's. Go work at Burger King. Go flip burgers. Just do something. Get out of the house. Go be a man, right? And then we go out and we do that resentfully because something in us says that I'm born for more than a diner. I'm born for more than just flipping burgers. Maybe I want to own a franchise of Burger Kings, whatever. I would recommend something more healthy, but that's just me. But if it's in your heart to do it, who am I to say, right? That's your path. That's your journey. If it's burning inside of you to start a chain of whatever. See, when we stop at the burger flipping, okay, and I realize this is a job for some, and it's a real, like if somebody comes from a third world country and they're so appreciative. I'm not talking about that so much as I'm saying don't stop there if that's not what's in your heart to stop at. Because you're a multi-dimensional, multi-layered being that has so much massive potential that it may not stop at a burger. It might, if that's what you love doing, and then you want to learn every aspect of that so that you can become a franchise owner and own a string of these. Don't just stop at the burger saying, this is my lot in life. That's the whole point of the false self. The false self will say, I'm stopping right here because there's nothing else. It caps itself. It puts a cap and says, this is it. This is survival. I'm grateful that I have a job. Mom and dad told me to just get a job. I'm grateful for it. And then we start eating that chemically induced food, and then it shuts us down even more. And then we wind up going home, dragging our hind end to the couch, and then we're like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I might as well have a beer, and then have another one, and have another one. And then we drink the cheap beer because we can't afford much else. And then the chemicals in that cheap beer add to the chemicals in the food. And then we don't even realize what's going on. We're just compounding the idea of the false self leading our life when it does not have to, it does not need to. It's all a choice, my friend. It's all a decision if we're going to stay right where we're at. Now, let's take it another notch. Again, let's take it another layer. You compound all of what I just said and mix it with the conditioning and the programming that you receive from mom or dad or a guardian. And depending on their generational line of survival, it begins to really compound itself in the psyche to where your mind is just saying, look, granddaddy did this, great granddaddy did this, mama did this. We all worked in fast food. And I'm just using this example, guys. I'm not really knocking it. I'm just saying, don't stop if your spirit, if the real you is saying, don't stop. That's the point. And so then we have the programming and the conditioning in our subconscious that we don't even really understand how much it is actually ruling and dominating our life. Patterns that it's forming, and then it interweaves the neurological, the neurons to wire and fire together at such depth that we can't even see that there's a real self. We can't even see that there's a spirit about us. We don't even know that God is for us. Okay, we think that God is against us. We think that we're being judged every minute. We think that, oh man, what's the point? I'm full of shame. It comes down through mom and dad shamed me into getting this job, into living this life. And so let me just drive the nail home, put it in the coffin, and who cares? I'm just going to go from fast food place to fast food place and eat as much food as I can. And because I'm trying to relieve the pain of the shame somehow. And then we sit in this madness all the time. Some of you are getting really well paid to sit in that madness. And you're a corporate head. You're somebody that's even owns your own business, and you're living out of survival mode. And you saw a glimpse of freedom for a moment, and then you said, okay, I see a need out there. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to start a business. So you start a business and you become successful at it, but you still have this subconscious programming that's driving you, saying, I'm still living behind the grill. I'm still living there in my mind. It's still the burger flipping, even though I'm making more than 6 figures a year. And then we carry that through. What changes that? Nothing until we do. Nothing until we awaken and become self-aware and say, wait a minute, what is running my life? What is really ruling me? What is running me? Well, it's the false self. It's the programming. But once it starts coming off, this just gets fun, guys. Because we start awakening and we start seeing it for what it is. And then we're like, ooh, okay, I can make a change there. I can make a change there. Could there be a possibility that, yeah, I kind of like the restaurant business. That started out, maybe, the burger flipping was good for a time, but man, I need something more, because this is capped at a certain wage and it's keeping me captive. So I'm starting to wake up a little bit and realize, because I've been listening to this podcast and others like it, and I'm starting to see a pattern here of I can enter my real self. So let me look into this. And so then you start inquiring. And then the manager knows, because you're doing a great job, because you, again, because you love what you're doing in that restaurant. Not what you're doing necessarily, the burger flipping, but you love the idea of it, right? Restaurant business. And you're like, wow, restaurant business. Okay. Could I, be a manager? Could I be a franchisee owner? Could I just skip over manager and realize and awaken and hit the frequency level, the vibration level of joy? And then door could open. Could it be a possibility? Okay, I'm just going to remain open. I'm going to be a receiver. I'm just going to receive that football coming into my hand every time. I may not catch it every time, but I'm going to receive the possibility of catching it and scoring the touchdown. So I'm just going to remain open, hold the pigskin, feel it, massage it, by feeling good, feeling joyful, feeling optimistic, feeling enthusiastic, and boom, all of a sudden, here comes a quantum reality. Here comes a suddenly happens in my life. Whoa. They said, well, we're going to put you in this franchise program. We think you'd be a good fit for it. And by the way, zero down, we're just going to pay as you go. How does that sound to you? We'll put you through the training. We'll put you through a program. And sound good? And you're like, are you kidding? Yeah, I'm in. See, guys, sometimes we think it has to be the hard way. In fact, most of the time, if we're not awake enough or we're not self-aware, we think that we have to take the long, hard road of time. Be patient, we're told. Be patient. It's going to happen. But everything is spinning at such a rapid rate in the solar system that time does not exist outside of our own linear reality. It just does not exist. There is no such thing as it's all quantum. It's all happening simultaneously right now in the moment. Do you know that we can move into that reality ourselves by being present, by being in the moment, so that we can see that there's a real self, genuine self, genuine part of us, authenticity that's like, oh, okay, I really like who I am in this. So what does time have to do with it? You know, it's like the song, what's love got to do with it? You know, that old Tina Turner song. Well, what's time got to do with it? Love has everything to do with it because love abides outside of time. You ever notice that you can't trace the roots of what love actually is? Can you define love? Yeah, God is love. But can you sit there and define the totality of God, love? No. You know what it feels like. You know what love feels like. And it is so effortless. It is so easy when you're dating somebody. You just see all the good stuff. You're not looking at the flaws until you go back into your programming. And then you're like, oh, there's a flaw. There's something I don't like. Ew, did you have to say that? That's nasty. You know, we start moving into that egoic side of things, that woundedness, when we don't stay in the frequency of love that has rose-colored glasses on, and it's okay to have rose-colored glasses on. In fact, that's what we should have, because we're living and abiding and moving in unconditional love at that frequency level, and then we just see the good, we see the treasure, we see the best in everyone and everything. But society screams a different message. That's okay. When we're in our real, genuine self, by allowing ourselves to allow, when we just allow things to come to us, when we allow ourselves to receive, when we allow ourselves to surrender, when we allow ourselves to let go, then we start operating out of the oneness and the bigness of who we are as love people in the earth, love genuine self in the earth, love pillars of love in the earth, wearing a suit called anatomy. So you have an Iron Man suit, and Iron Man's cool. I love Marvel movies. They're my favorite. I love the whole Iron Man concept, but we can make that sucker our God if we're not careful, and some of us have. And we're waking up to the reality that false God, that false self, is not serving me well. I'm an Iron Man all by my real self. I don't need a suit. In fact, the suit is an illusion because the genuine genius is behind it. They created the suit, and that is the spirit of the matter. So you can look at Robert Downey Jr. in the movie Iron Man. Okay, the genius was who? The genius was Robert Downey. The genius was Mr. Stark, Tony Stark. Okay, Tony Stark was the genius behind the suit. He's the one that created the suit and then lived and moved and had his being in it, and he controlled the suit. There's a different reality, guys. When we become real and move into that real authenticity of who we are, and we discover the bigness of it, at least part of it, because we're always discovering, we're always seeing it, it's always unfolding and unveiling, then we can be the genius behind the creativity that actually controls the creativity in a good way. Remember, Tony Stark, he's tweaking the creative thing, the creative suit, tweaking this technology and tweaking the arm, tweaking the boots. Remember when he first put the boots on and he blasts through the ceiling and he's adjusting and tweaking? That's what it's like when we're waking up and we're seeing ourselves for who we are. And then we tweak and we adjust and we let go and we surrender and we just move with it. We massage it. We work with the creativity of healing the ego so that we can integrate it so that it takes the back seat and we take the front seat. See, that's being in control of the quote suit. And then sending love to the suit so that the suit serves you well. We can't destroy the ego. A lot of people talk about killing the ego. Well, you'd have to kill yourself. You'd have to off yourself, because the ego part of us is a part of us. It's that survival part of us, the instincts that runs from the lion, the tiger, and the bear, oh my, it runs from that in survival. And so you don't want to get rid of that. That is a built-in hardwired system that you don't want to destroy and kill. No, you want to heal it so that it serves the spirit when it's time to do fight, flight, and freeze from a literal animal running after you. You don't want to just stand there and say, oh, I got this, when a bear's running after you. What are you going to do? Punch a bear out? I mean, come on. It's not reality. It would say, and you don't want to run from a bear, but you know what I'm saying. It's like you're going to do something to position yourself so that you don't get shredded. It's the same type of concept when we're looking at our earth suit. We're always going to have this earth suit while we're breathing breath on this side of the earth plane and this side of the veil, and we're going to be moving in that. We're going to be operating in this earth suit, but we can let it serve us well by operating deeper than that, our spirit. Letting our spirit come to the forefront, the genius of our spirit, like Tony Stark, so that the suit lasts, so that the suit is well loved and cared for, so that the suit can take the back seat and enjoy the ride to the forefront of the genuine self of who we are, and that's our spirit genius. That's the bigger part of us. Science has measured the bigger part of us. We're actually inside of our spirit, not the other way around. We're standing in with our earth suit inside of our spirit, because if there's a sphere around us that goes up to 15 feet or more, that actually is our circle of influence, spiritually speaking. And so when it exudes out, that's why people, when you walk into a room, people either are attracted to you or they're repelled by you, depending on what is going on, if the ego's leading or not. Or your spirit can be leading. You could irritate a whole lot of egoic structures in that room, right? Because they don't want the joy. The ego doesn't want to absorb joy. It wants to rebel and lead the way. But this is where our spirit is bigger than the ego. It's the real us. It says, okay, little Johnny, I'm going to send healing and love and light to you so that you can be integrated, not destroyed. We don't destroy the small self of us, but we send love to it, and then it takes the back seat to the leading part. This is why, guys, a perfect example of this would be a grown man acting like an 8-year-old. You know who's leading the show. That's the false self. That's the egoic, wounded self that's leading the life that you're watching and witnessing. Maybe that's you. And that's okay. There's no condemnation here. It's just pointing the reality out. We all have this part of us that's this little boy sometimes. But we want to, if we're in a grown man suit, we want to be a grown, mature man, right? And we don't need any more little boys running around in a grown man suit that mamas need to take care of, because your wife is not your mama. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother message. So let's let the real self begin to emerge and lead through self-awareness, just by listening to this and saying, oh, is there truth to that? That is a crack in the doorway of self-awareness. Then you begin to massage that through, oh, okay, I'm going to let go of this part of me a little bit more that's wanting to control everything, that says that this is the way or the highway. And then we begin to let go a little bit more. And then we ascend, we expand, we grow, we mature, we expand a little bit more. And then we're like, oh, I can see it now. My eyes are opening, spiritually speaking and physically speaking. My eyes are opening. Now I can surrender a little more, because I like how this feels, the real me coming forth. I like how this feels. See, it's a little scary at first because we're not used to living out of the bigger part of us. So then, because for reason of use and because of patterns, and we don't want to change, we're used to routine. It's like, no, this is what I do every day. You're a landscaper. You go get your deep fried burrito in the morning. You slam a couple of those down. You have your cup of coffee. Then you're like, I need energy, but then it really drains you. So then you're drained an hour later. You hit work and you're like, hey, bro, go get me some more coffee. I need to get caffeined up. And then we go through this cycle every day. We get home, we're tired, we don't have time for our family, we don't have time for the things that are really important. And then we do it all over again. I'm talking about patterns here, guys. Patterns of the false self. So then we put a chink in the armor of the patterns by saying, ooh, hold on a minute. I just had an epiphany. Something he said, something somebody else said on a podcast, somebody else said on a video. Ooh, let me put two and two together. It's all interconnected. Yeah, the bigger part of me wants to come through. It's always yearning and longing to arise and come through that false self to say, I want to give you the adventure of a lifetime. I want to give you fun in your life. Do you want fun in your life? Do you want fun back as like you were a little kid and you didn't have a care in the world? We can live like that. We genuinely can. There's many people doing it, but not enough. So I'm going to drop it right there. I know we can talk a lot more about this, and we will. But thank you so much for listening. And remember, 18 inches down is that bigger self. It's that greater self. It's the heart connection intertwined with the spirit. That's the genuine, authentic part of us that not only wants to be seen, but wants to be lived in fullness throughout this life. We can live a full life. We can have a full life by going right inside of us to discover this whole new world that's been covered up through trauma, covered up through subconscious programming, so we can become consciously aware that, whoa, consciousness is where it's at. It's fun. It's real. This is genuine. All right, guys, stay 18 inches down. That's where all fun and life is really lived to the core, to the max. We'll see you on the next one.